All right, looks like we are on. Good morning, everybody. So here we go, round two of the feedback that I promised you guys I'd give you for those of you that follow directions and sort of sent me your links and gave me the right title or the right subject of your email. So I'm going to continue on. I'm basically going to, today I don't have a lot of time. I have some other things I need to get going on, but I'm going to try to finish up this entire page up here. So this is a good solid 20 or 30 tracks that we're going to try to get through, and won't rant and rave too much before we get started today. But again, all of this is brought to you by the Syndicate, which is my private mentorship Facebook group, where essentially you're going to get access to feedback like you're getting in this video every single week, as long as you participate. So I do weekly homework assignments. I have monthly licensing opportunities. I have open reviews here and there. This is basically an open review, and I provide this to my members on a regular basis, pretty much once a month. Whatever you guys are working on, you can submit it, and I give you guys some feedback, just like I'm giving you in the last video that I did like this, and the feedback I'm going to give to you guys today. So as the last video, the link is in the description below, so you can click that and learn more about how to get started if you think this stuff is valuable for you and would actually help you moving forward in your career. So let's get forwarded. Get forwarded. Let's get started. Travis, sorry, it's early for me, guys. Here, yeah, 6:30 here. So I don't know how, wherever it is in your time, but it's early for me. Hey Jesse, still trying to get through all the free videos you sent me. Still on day one. All right, man, get through it, man. Take some time, watch those things. They'll definitely help you out. Here's a link to your track. You're a singer-songwriter under the name Wayward Transmissions. Very cool. Your style is suited for it. All right, cool. I'm glad you gave me a direct link. Let's take a listen.
So you're lost in the crowd, searching for something that's real, something that says you're alive, and something that makes you feel. Pull the hood over your head.
You got a great sound, man. Great voice. You kind of remind me a little bit of Blue October, his voice, and just the way that the words and lyrics are working together. I don't know if you listen to them at all. Or the one thing I would say though is try to make more upbeat tracks, especially for the TV film world. Like this definitely has a licensable sound, but this slow ballad thing can only be used for so many scenes and opportunities. Again, the name of the game for this business is if you want to make a full-time living at it, you need to make music that gets you multiple placements. Like one track can get you 20 different placements in 20 different TV shows, right? And if all 20 of those TV shows go into syndication and air over and over again, that's when you're talking about some pretty big bucks, right? So you don't want to create music that's so it's not high in demand, and something like this is just kind of slow and a ballad. And sure, there'll be a love scene here or there, or a breakup scene, or something that will require something slow like this, but not nearly as much as if this were up tempo, high energy, feeling good. Because every kind of commercial could use this sort of thing. Almost every TV show has that kind of opportunity. So from my experience, the mid-tempo, up-tempo range is where you probably want to go. So I'm sure you create tracks like that. So this one, in terms of its mixing and producing, sounds great. I think maybe just a little bit of low end in your mix. I feel it's a little bit in the high register. Let me listen a little more.
Never letting anyone in. You and I know there's so much more, but you're too scared to even begin.
Yeah, you got a really cool voice. I'm assuming that's you singing on there, but if not, whoever it is, really cool voice. A little bit more low end. We need something kind of booming a little bit more, just to kind of push a little bit of that energy out. And maybe some more percussion, something to kind of move it, because this song feels really, really slow, and it's a beautiful song, and just as a song that people could download and enjoy, in the public, it's a beautiful, wonderful song. For TV film though, again, these slow things, they just don't get as much play as an up-tempo one is. So take that feedback for what it is. All right, John, thanks for the opportunity. You're welcome. Let's see what you got here, man. What I like already is that you're introducing new elements and you're not repeating the same thing twice. That's very good. And you did it again here, so very good. It seems like you've maybe been around for a while and have learned how to do this kind of stuff. Kind of want to hear some low drums right here. Just my opinion. I just kind of want to hear some doom, 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 bum, doom. Just something kind of in the distance, like thunder. You know, just something very vague, not in your face or intense or anything like that, but just something that adds a little bit of this to the seriousness of it. Because when that string came in, I needed something to kind of balance it out, because that string is kind of in the high register, but I want something on the low that's like pounding away down there. Yeah, this is awesome, man. I kind of hear sports with this. This is kind of like a meaningful sports cue. So like maybe like a biography or a behind the scenes on how an athlete got to where he is. I definitely could see something like this being used for that. Just even though it's a little bit slow, a little bit mid-tempo, you have this very inspirational, uplifting vibe to this track. So I see a lot of placements could be had with something like this. So you definitely have a great talent for your composition skills. But again, just like the last track, also don't neglect doing some up-tempo, faster, same kind of vibe. You can do this uplifting, optimistic kind of a feel, meaning this is like a meaningful track, you know, but just up the tempo a little bit, get a little bit more percussion going on, kind of bring up the energy a little bit. And I think you can open up a lot more placements that way. And as I said in the last review video, typically with the end of your cues, you want to have a downbeat and you want to probably resolve on the root chord for this industry, okay? Not if it's for somebody else or another artist, they might not want that. But remember, in this business, your end consumer is a music supervisor or a library or an editor, anybody who needs to put music into a TV show. And a lot of times that's what they're going to request is like, hey, we need a definite down ending at the end of it. So something that I would consider throwing in at the end of your tracks just to make sure you give them that, or you know, end your track here when you're kind of building up, boom, give them that downbeat, that final finished feeling. All right, another Joe, not John. Right on. So this is a attachment. Sorry, man, that one is not how we're doing this. Can't listen to that one. Remember, we wanted direct links. I don't want to be downloading things. I don't want to be doing anything like that. So, Greg, what you got here, man?
Jessica on the track. I just fucked your bitch, get dipped on some real shit. Niggas pulling up in hoops when they wanna shoot shit. Fucking mean it's all fresh prepared for the heat. This shit gon' blow up, fucking mean it's N-I-C-K in the beat. Ain't these niggas here so they see me in their sleep. Niggas can't diss me, they afraid of the heat.
Now, okay, so the intro of this song, I was really digging that. Really cool sounds, had a very cinematic feel to it. It like really drew me in. When the vocals kicked in, it took it into a different direction. So one thing, you got to cut out all the cuss words. If you're going to go into the TV film world, they're not going to want any cuss words, nothing. So you're going to have to rewrite your tracks, or you're going to have to edit those things out. But you got to supply clean tracks, no cuss words. Remember, you're talking about getting stuff placed on cable and on air. This is FCC land, right? They got regulations. They cannot be putting bad words. And you don't want to be limiting yourself anyways to not be able to get a lot of placements by having that kind of stuff. Your vocals, they were a little bit rushed. They felt like they were a little bit ahead of the beat. I would probably just grab all of your vocals in your session, push them a little bit behind. They felt like they were a little bit ahead, especially in hip hop. You can never really go wrong pushing your vocals back behind the beat, even if it lands behind the kick and the snare. If it sounds and feels a little lazy, that gives it a little bit of attitude. It makes it sound just cool. It just makes it sound real laid back, and it'll actually make your track feel much better. When your vocals are ahead and rushing a little bit, everything feels like it's kind of falling apart a little bit. The vocal quality, I would say you need to put a little bit more low end in your voice. Right now it's very high frequency. Sounds like it's coming through tweeters. It doesn't sound like I have a lot of warmth to your voice, so I could probably use a little bit of a boost on that low end of your EQ. But again, I don't know, it could be your microphone, it could be how you're recording this thing, I don't really know. But if that's just like a plain sound, just like that's the best sound you can get directly with your microphone, whatever you're using, you're going to need to artificially increase some of that low end in your mixing, because you got to get a little bit more warmth to the human voice. Not a lot, you don't want it to be blowing out your mix, but you need to have a little bit more than you have right now, because it'll make your voice sound more serious, more human, and just more like warm. Like it'll really kind of like grab your listener and bring them into the track a little bit more. When it's really high in the frequency range like this, it sounds a little bit more amateurish, and it kind of doesn't really absorb people into your track as well.
Boom, boom, that'll be all you see. Beat your ass down, have you in the fucking cast.
Now, here's the thing. Assuming you're going to clean up the vocals or whatever, you still need to be adding new things to your track. I know that probably what you've been doing all along has been producing beats for either yourself or for friends or other rappers or whatever. But, in this business, it's not a copy and paste operation. You can't just create a verse, create a hook, and then just copy paste, and then cool, I'm done. That's how you can start a track, right, in this industry. But every verse needs to be different from the one before it. Every chorus needs to be a little bit different from the one before it. So you need to add new elements, switch up the drums, try a new chord progression, add a new lead, put strings on there, mess with the vocals or something, so that every time you hear this chorus, it's not exactly just like the last one you heard. Musically too, right? Even lyrically, you can have changes if you want, but just most importantly, musically, because when you submit to a library, you are going to have to give them a vocal and an instrumental version, and you need to give an editor or a supervisor options. You got to give them all these different options within your track so they can use your track as much as possible. If you're looping the same thing over and over again, what do they need 3 minutes of your track for? This is 4 minutes long. What do they need 4 minutes of it? They can just loop. They are also editors, so they can also take an audio form and just go boom, copy paste, right? So what you want to do, like within one track, and this is a lesson for everybody watching, within one track, you want to give them, like essentially, let's if you had verse 1, verse 2, chorus 1, chorus 2, maybe even a bridge and chorus 3. You're pretty much giving them 6 different tracks, not including the intro and the outro, like 8 different things that they could possibly go, all right, that outro is cool, we'll put that here, and then we'll put this verse for a while, it'll be like this chorus, that bridge would be great here. It's like you want to give them all these options within one of your tracks so that you get as long of a placement as possible. So that's just my two cents on that one. All right, Courtney, this one's called Rock All Night. Let's see what you got. Okay, one thing I like it, really cool feel, and I like that it's going in, it's getting me like hyped up, and it has good energy. I felt like we should have been rising already, like we should have been crescendoing up to something, but when you have that cool drum feel, that snare thing coming in, and then it just goes away and it goes back into the beat, it's like, wait, wasn't that supposed to take us somewhere? So typically when you have like a new element like that, it's definitely hyping up the energy. rise the whole track up, crescendo it all. Throw like a white noise riser up, get a pitch bending thing going up, whatever it is, you know, start getting the kick to go a little bit faster, and build up the whole thing, rise us up to something, and then boom, hit us with a chorus, hit us with some big, massive dun, 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 whatever you want to do. But this is a cool build-up section, but we need something to rise up to, and it feels like we're just kind of stuck here. We're not going anywhere so much. Like that, like we were just and then we're back to where we were before, so we didn't really go anywhere. So that would be where I would build it up even further, and then maybe even have a pause, have like a half note rest or something, and then you know, go into a really massive chorus section, something that really pays off, because this is a great tension building area. This is like the sort of rise up, but we need that release. We need that big, massive, fat hook, something that really just gets us going. Yeah, that'd be my biggest note here, man, is that this is just kind of the same thing happening the entire track through. So we got to have differentiation. We got to have a verse. We need a chorus. We probably need a bridge as well. So, and that means you probably need to switch up everything for that chorus section. This kind of a track, what I hear is like a 4 on the floor. Bum, 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 bum. Something like that. Just really big, epic, like celebration kind of a feel for your chorus. And then the bridge, you can go into a different chord progression. It can kind of be like subdued or whatever, and then bring it back to that big chorus or whatever. But this feels like it's just one long verse that you kind of just keep looping or whatever. So that one wouldn't quite fly for a music library. They probably wouldn't be into something like that. You got to give them more options than that. But a good sound, though. I like your sound. Jason, all right, check this track. Cool, Sleepless Nights. While I'm playing this, I got to go run and grab a little quick drink of water, so I am listening.
I couldn't sleep at night. Get them G now. I couldn't sleep at night. Going through them city lights.
I remember when I couldn't sleep at night. Couldn't even focus, barely had a leash on.
All right, first thing, you know, I think there's probably potential in this thing, but your mix is so compressed. It's like pumping right now. Your vocals are pumping, the music's pumping. It's like it's doing this the whole time, and that's really distracted me from your actual music. So I'm sure, you know, I definitely hear like a lot of potential with this track, but the way that it's been mixed and mastered, it's really over compressed. Like your vocals sound like they need to be a little bit more situated properly in the mix, and the entire thing needs to be just let your mix breathe a little bit more. You know, it's one issue that a lot of the syndicate members will have is when they submit things that less and less these days, because when I give them feedback, most everybody just takes the notes and does it. But like lessening that sort of like need to want to like over compress your mixes, because a lot of producers these days think that that's the way to make them sound bigger and louder. Compression can only take you so far. It can definitely help tie a whole mix together, but the moment you start hearing pumping and things kind of like getting really squashed, that's when you're gonna you're defeating the purpose of compression. Compression is supposed to make your mix sound better. This way it's gonna make it sound worse, because you're actually gonna be distracting your listener from the music, and they're gonna be hearing some sort of weird artifact happening with your audio mix, and that's what I'm hearing right now. But aside from that, let me give you some more specific notes. The vocals are really loud. I'd probably take those down 3 or 6 dB. They're really, really loud. Now, I would definitely, with these vocals, throw a auto-tuner on them, because they are not exactly sitting right in the key of the music right now. They come in and then they kind of go out, and then they come in, they go out. So you guys need to get a little bit more comfortable, or you, if it's just you, throwing on a little bit more of that vocal correction. You got to have either auto-tune from Monterey's is great. You know, the one that just actually comes with Logic Pro 10 is awesome. That's the one that I use for the most part when I need to. But definitely these vocals, they have to be like go listen to vocals from the pop charts, the top 40 charts that are going on right now. Listen to how clean and accurate and on point all of those vocals are. Your vocals, if you're going to be competitive in this business, need to sound as clean, as in tune, and just like that. Now, because of this style of music, you actually probably could, it's your choice if you want to do it or not, but it might not be the worst thing to have a little bit of that auto correction effect on your vocals, like the sort of T-Pain effect, because you have sort of a voice that is very like, it wobbles, like you go in and out of like notes a lot, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like a cool effect that you have on your voice. But if you just sort of crank up a little bit more of that auto tune, you actually might get a little cooler, more modern sound actually, that might actually work a little bit better for you. So just my 2 cents on your vocals, but definitely get that compression stuff fixed, because that will be the biggest obstacle for you moving forward for libraries. David E. Maxwell, you are very welcome. Here's the track right on.
Music produced by DavidEMaxwellBeats.com.
Okay, so that's one thing I do want to say before I get into your track. It's a really good idea, David, that you have a tag on your track. I recommend this for a lot of you guys, or most anybody. If you're going to be shopping whole tracks, you probably want to throw a little tag like this on your track, and you want to do it during the hook, during the verse, during the bridge, or whatever, so that there are no unauthorized downloads and uses of your track. And I don't care if you put your tracks on, like, don't let it be download enabled, or put it on private or whatever. Anybody, if it's on the internet, people can grab it, right? There are sound grabbing options, there's downloading tools, there's plugins, there's things you can get that anybody can download music. So if you want to really protect your music, especially when you're in the shopping phase and you're kind of sending a bunch of emails out to music libraries, throwing like a little tag like this is a very smart thing to do, just to be sure, right? Just to make sure that no unscrupulous people go, these are awesome tracks, but we don't want to pay for them. Let's just take them. You want to make sure you kind of, give yourself a little insurance policy for that. And throwing tags on your tracks is definitely one way to do it. Make it sound good. Don't make a really terrible sounding tag on your thing. Your tag, David, sounds awesome. So definitely try to get it sounding great. If you don't have an awesome microphone set up and you can't do that, go on something like Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, or I think it's just Fiverr. I think both of them get you. There's people that you can pay them and they'll make you a little tag and they'll just say your name and they'll give you a little MP3 or a WAV file. Just throw it into your tracks or whatever, but definitely get yourself some sort of protection. It's a really good idea, especially when you're shopping music, okay? So dope, energy, awesome composition. Love where you're going with this. Here's the thing. Your samples, they immediately took me out of your track. Like, and as far as like turned me off to it, made me go, I don't know. And it's just your samples though, okay? And so that's why I want you to really hear this. It's not your composition. It's not your chord progressions. And literally, if you could just replace every instrument that you have there, maybe not the drums. Drums are okay. But, the low horn thing you had going on, the leads, the strings, all that kind of stuff. If you literally just grabbed all those MIDI tracks that you composed, put them on new instruments, more bold, dynamic, modern, badass sounding samples, this track goes through the roof, okay? So that's all we're really talking about here. It's really not a dig on your production or composing skills or even mixing or mastering skills. The mix isn't even that bad. It's just that the samples you're using literally are like, and I made this analogy in the last video, that they're like broken crayons. So if you had like a master painter who normally use acrylics, and they had like a palette of 100 different colors with all these different shades, and then you said, well, actually I want you just to use all these broken crayons over here that are not really in any order and they're in a box, see what you can come up with. You might come up with something okay, but you understand it's not going to nearly be the masterpiece as if he uses the proper tools that he should be using to make his paintings, right? To make his masterpiece come to life. And it's the same thing for us as musicians. When we use not so great sounding samples, which I'm hearing in your track, it's like we're using these broken crayons. So it really, it's one of those things that it frustrates me in many ways, because it's like I hear so much talent, especially in the syndicate and, with you guys in my group, or your subscribers here. and the talent is there. You obviously have the talent. That's not even a question here. But when you're using the wrong samples, it's like, man, like, it's just your samples, right? It's just, if you could just, update, invest a little bit more in getting some fresher samples, some bigger sounding samples, your tracks would, I'm talking about like from one day to the next, you're instantly going to increase and improve the quality of your tracks, and you're going to literally be walking on cloud 9 going like, wow, I can't believe it. Because I remember going through that. I had tracks that just used terrible drums, terrible everything. And I remember the first time where I was like, you know what? Everybody else is using better sounding samples. And I just started like treating my samples a little bit more seriously and really was more selective with what I was using. It was like the first track I created after I did that was like 10 times better, like way, way, way better. My mixing skills didn't improve that much. My mastering skills didn't improve. It's just when I started with better ingredients in the start, I ended up with a better product. All right. So definitely look into upgrading your stuff. I recommend splice.com. And also Contact. They have almost every kind of library synth you can do for you, because this is kind of like a trap hip hop thing. Maybe you want to look at Sylenth. Massive is a great plugin with lots of presets, and you can go, I mean, there's tons of companies that offer sort of pre-made presets that you can download, like whole sets of like thousands of presets of leads and basses and all that kind of stuff in the genre that you need. So definitely take a look at that. But yeah, getting those new samples, getting updated on that is a great thing for you to do. Jimmy Finn, whisper when we are done. All right, let's see what you got here. So I hear some timing issues. Your plucking is happening before the downbeat of your drums. And I think that was the main thing. It was that it's the same issue I had on the last track. The samples here are just not doing it. I think reinventing yourself, throwing this whole sample system that you're using right now, whatever you're using, throw it out the window. Whatever this is, you got to update. So if it's the music production program you're using that has these built-in sounds, you can't use them, because these things are just not going to get you up to the par of being on par with the professionals in this industry. They're using great sounding samples, great sounding plugins, synths, all that kind of stuff. They're not all doing live recordings. A lot of it's just happening within people's DAWs and on their MIDI keyboards, but they're using high quality samples and sounds, and these samples just wouldn't make you stand out in this business. So I'm just being honest with you. I'm not trying to pick on you. I mean, I like that you're adding new things every 4 bars, so that's a great thing that you want to keep doing as you improve and increase your production skills and the samples you're using. But this it just needs more. It feels like right now it's kind of in a demo phase. Like, this is an idea that you could put together for a full track that needs to be fully produced. But right now the drums need more dynamics, and by that I mean that like your hi-hat pattern is just right. It's just kind of playing the same thing. So your drums kind of feel like we're just looping. There's not a lot happening there that's kind of keeping me engaged for forward momentum. So one trick that I'll give you right now is just having a maybe every 4th snare hit, like at the end of the sort of a 2-bar phrase, you could do a swell up, and then for that 4th hit, you maybe do like a clap, big clap, add some reverb to it, so that every time you get to that, it just feels like we hit like the end of a phrase. So it's right? And every time you go through that, there's just something new kind of happening and kind of giving us a little pattern that doesn't feel like we just literally took a 1-bar phrase and went copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And definitely the drums that you're using right now, they just feel like a drum machine and not very lifelike. They don't have a lot of life going through them. So definitely a sample issue, and sort of adding more production elements to your tracks would definitely help out. Clinton, all right, made this remix. All right, now here's the thing with remixes: if it's not your track, you're not going to be able to get this placed because that means you're going to have to clear it with the original publisher. So let me take a listen to this. Dope song, man. I don't know if these are your vocals, though. If these are somebody's that you just took. Not familiar with this track. It's a great song. I love her voice. But just so you know, remixes, you can't really throw those into TV film libraries unless you've cleared the original vocals. And it's another point I really want to drive home right now. If you're going to use vocals at all, sampled vocals, stuttering vocals, whatever, I don't care what kind of vocals you're using, you better make sure that they are cleared, because there are situations that I've come across where people get in some fairly serious trouble for putting copyrighted or uncleared vocal samples in their tracks. And when you do that and you send them to a library, and maybe they're not aware of it, and then they catch it later, or what's even worse, if a network catches it later after it's been on air, you're talking about lawsuits that are going to put the network at jeopardy, put the library at jeopardy, put you at jeopardy. And you better believe if that ever happens to you and you've put a lot of people in legal risk, you're blacklisted. Like, that's it. You're done. Like, there's just nobody who's going to want to do business with you. And this is a small industry. Word travels fast. People know each other. So just first thing, get your vocal samples from authorized packs. Typically, you'll get like an end user license agreement with any sample pack that you download. First of all, make sure you're getting it from a legit source. Don't go to like message boards or torrent sites where you're getting stuff for free and people are like, oh, cool, check out this free link. I put it on Mega. Here you go. You don't really know what you're getting there, right? You need to go to a reputable company that has a phone number, where you can actually have some interaction with them if something goes wrong or if you have questions. So don't be just taking free stuff because you don't want to pay. Because I've had situations where somebody literally got a sample pack. They got an end user license agreement that says you can use these royalty free, commercial use, go ahead. And there were copyrighted vocals in there, like vocals you literally could not use at all. So it definitely happens where just amateurs are putting together these things and throwing them on the internet. And, they're anonymous, so you can't get a hold of them once you get in trouble. You're not going to be able to get a hold of them. So your best defense is just buy your products and your samples from reputable online sources, and just make sure that they have the end user license agreement in there that says, like, yes, you can use these commercially, they're royalty free, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you have some protection for yourself. All right, kettle trigger music. The review came at a perfect time. You've been grinding away to improve your production skills, working on the song every day for 3 weeks. Okay, you've scrapped it. All right, so we'll talk about that. Awesome. Let's take a listen. So the issue, though, with working on one song for 3 weeks is that will not be a pace that can keep you like profitable or what should I say, relevant in this business. You're gonna have to be a lot faster with your production here. And for some reason, your site's not loading up here, man. Let's see. Give it a shot on your main website. But I don't know. Something slow is happening with your site there, man. Bummer. Sorry, I wanted to take a listen for you, but yeah, it's not loading up, man. So definitely to go take a listen to your go take a look at your website. It's not working. Your kettletriggermusic.com. Wasn't loading up for me. So, but definitely in terms of your workflow, one song for 3 weeks is just, yeah, you could probably make some income doing it that slow, but you're going to have to learn how to get a lot faster than that. And I'm talking maybe 2 to 3 tracks per week. That's probably where you should start eventually getting towards. I know maybe right now doing 1 track a week is probably something you could probably do. This would be something, like you said, you've been scrapping it, going back and, you know, probably erasing things, but you do need to learn how to up your production, your productivity. And that's something I definitely talk about in my master course and as well as in the syndicate. So, all right, Chris Comiso. All right, man, you gave me a direct link, so you're going to get a review.
Oh my God, where did you come from? You hit me like a falling star. You smiled at me and now I love you, but I don't know who you are. I saw fire, fire, fire. I saw fire, fireworks. I saw fire, fire, fire. I saw fire.
I dig this, man. This is really cool, well produced. I like your vocals. I like your lyrics. I like that too. But again, I'll repeat myself one more time. You know, having these slower kind of romantic tracks, they probably don't have as much use as the up-tempo ones. And I remember you've sent me some other tracks in the past, and you had some cool, more up-tempo ones that probably are a little bit more friendly for licensing or whatever. So this one's a beautiful song, and it's got this romantic feel to it. So no complaints, really. I really don't have that any notes for you other than the fact that this style itself is just not in high demand in the licensing business. But really cool, man. Arthur, all right. Here's a SoundCloud to the link. Cool. Let's see what you got. Space Crawl. Definitely a samples issue already, man. 10 seconds in, I can definitely tell what's going to stop you from getting a second listen from library or getting that acceptance offer or getting you that first contract is your samples. I heard a little bit of a timing issue in the beginning here. Yeah, it feels like your synth is actually faster than your drums. It feels a little rushed, so you need to check out and make sure that things are on the grid when you're producing this stuff. But these samples, I would definitely wipe these clean and kind of reinvent yourself. You know, imagine yourself, you're a brand new producer, and, you know, this is one thing I'll say about this, so I don't always repeat myself, but one way to succeed, right, in this business and anything else in life is what I call faking it till you make it. So even though right now you might not be making any income, much less your full-time income by doing this, put yourself in the shoes of me or somebody who's doing this full-time. What kind of samples would you get? And what kind of sacrifices would you make in your life to make sure that you got the right tools to do this professionally? So put yourself into the shoes of, say this to yourself. I'm a professional. I do this full time. This is my job. What kind of choices should I be making to make sure that I, remain successful, not even get successful, right? Fake it. Pretend like you are successful. Pretend like you already are doing this on a weekly basis. And this is, your job is already this. What kind of things would you be doing in terms of your production skills, your mixing skills, learning how to do things, sort of humbling yourself and making sure that you can make the changes necessary, not accepting excuses for anything and just doing the work, getting in there and doing things, updating your samples, right? Pretend like you're already there and put yourself in the mind frame of, well, what would somebody who's doing this full time do? Would they give themselves an out? Would they give themselves an excuse? Would they sort of drag their feet and not really update the samples and just go, well, I'll fix it in the mix or something? They probably wouldn't, right? They probably would just go, you know what? This is my job. This is my profession. I care about this. I'm going to make the sacrifices necessary to improve things, whether it's updating my samples, learning how to mix better, learning how to do whatever. So I'm not going to repeat myself. I'll listen to a little bit more of this track, but I definitely feel like from the other tracks I've listened to, it's the same kind of story here where it's just the samples, really. Some timing issues, though. You really got to make sure you get those timing things down. Timing issues will kill you right away when you send to a library. A supervisor or a library exec will listen to something with timing issues in the track and just turn it off right away. It doesn't know how cool and awesome your track is. If there's things that are not lining up rhythmically, it's just going to turn them off right away. Yeah, definitely. It's timing and samples, man. So there needs to be a lot of work, a lot of going back to the drawing board, and kind of just sort of reinventing yourself as a producer. I think that would be the best thing for you to do moving forward. So all new samples. Get rid of these drums, get rid of these synths, get rid of everything you're doing right now. try brand new sounds, try something completely different. And then also make sure that when you're producing, you are, like, let's say you make a drum line or you make a synth line, highlight all of those MIDI notes and quantize those suckers, right? Throw them on 16th notes or 8th notes, quantize things. If you don't know how to quantize stuff, you definitely got to look that up on YouTube with whatever program you're using, Logic, Ableton, Fruity Loops, Pro Tools. I don't know what you're using, but quantize everything that you're doing and make sure things land right on the grid. This is like sort of fundamental basic stuff. You got to get that stuff right first before you can get into, you know, adding dynamics and making sure you have very licensable tracks and all that kind of stuff. So definitely keep up the work, keep going. Definitely don't give up on it. But a lot of work needs to be done to get your tracks up on par with what's going on in this business. Joseph, all right, you followed my commentaries and videos over the past 6 months. Right on. I've shed quite a bit of light on the industry. Thanks. I hope to. That's what I'm trying to do. You're looking for a few good agencies and open to exclusive representation. Should you have any suggestion? I am open. Oh yeah, so that's something I should definitely talk about. I cannot tell you guys who to submit your music to. A lot of people, that's one of my most common questions I get. Like, hey Jesse, who do I send music to? First of all, there's a liability for me when I start telling you guys who to submit music to, because if you guys don't get accepted, that opens me up to things of saying like, well, you know, Jesse said I should submit here and he's saying no. So I don't want to even go down that road. Every library, by the way, has different acceptance seasons, essentially. So there might be some months of the year where they're like, hey, sorry, you know, you have great music, but we're good. Like, we've got enough producers. We don't have enough work for you. We can't really accept anybody right now. Other times where they're like, hey, we just lost somebody. They're not composing as much. They're not submitting as much. So you can come on in. So you guys can understand, with over 200 libraries in my directory, I can't keep up with all of them. I can't go around and find out what's going on with everybody. And it's not really their business to tell me, like, hey, Jesse, let's tell you what's going on with our business. And what, you know, they don't have the time. It's not really any of my business what's going on in their inner workings or whatever. So you got to do that research for yourself. So I've given you guys the music library directory. Yeah, I mean, you have to purchase it. It is down below under this video. It's under pretty much all of my videos if you want to get it. But you guys got to do that research. And if you're not willing to put in that research to look for those companies and learn how to research them, and that's included in my free crash course that you can also get below this video. If you're not willing to put in just a little bit of work to do this kind of thing, this business won't work out for you. So it wouldn't, first of all, do you any favors for me to just kind of, here, submit to this library, submit to that library. It doesn't do you any good, because you got to do the work yourself. It's your career. I mean, how important is this to you? Is it worth doing some research and looking into which companies might fit best with your music? If it's worth it to you, you can do really great in this business, and you can take that time to go find out for yourself who you should be partnering with and who you should be doing business with. So for some reason, this one didn't link. Now, normally I'd say no to this because I don't like to have to copy and paste links. And of course, this one didn't work. Sorry, man. Yeah, this is not working for me. So you got to give me direct links. This one's not doing it. So I just tried to do this. I'll do one more time. Let's just do Reverb Nation. Copy and paste it into my URL, and it's not doing anything, man. So sorry. Next time you got to make sure you're giving me probably the HTTP next time I ask for submissions, and then you can actually get the review you want. So I'm sorry, buddy. Can't help you out. Napoleon, you sent me the YouTube. Right on, man. Let's see what you got.
Little mama, can I slide your way? Little mama, can I slide your way? If it was me and you, we would do all the things that lovers do. Take trips, make hubby drink the wine and food. Take on the world together, me and you.
So same issue with the, I think it was a couple of tracks back. Music is cool. It's like really chill. Again, maybe a little bit slow and kind of romantic. Seems to be one of the big issues that a lot of you guys are having, is that slower songs seems to be what a lot of my subscribers like to, a lot of what you guys like to produce. So probably want to steer a little more clear of that and stay to the mid-tempo, up-tempo, feel-good kind of vibes. Your vocals, though, same thing. You gotta do the auto-tuning, right? You gotta really crank those up a little bit more, because they really don't feel like they're matching with the key of your music underneath it. And if the vocals and the music aren't really in sync, and they're not super, super clean and tight like they are in pop music, it's gonna get passed up. In fact, this would be a track that I would probably if you're not going to fix these vocals, I'd probably just take these vocals off, man, because the music is cool. Music has this really great vibe, but when the vocals come in, because they're not totally in pitch, on tune, like syncing up with the track underneath it, it's going to turn a library off. They're not going to want to sync something like this or put something in a movie or a TV show or whatever. So that's my 2 cents on it. But again, stay with more mid-tempo, up-tempo stuff. I think that's just the way to go. These slower romantic tracks, they just don't have a big home in this business. Darren, all right. Let's see what you got. Need to know now. Definitely a samples issue, but I'm feeling this. Like, this has got a good feeling, and I like that it's upbeat. It makes me feel good. It's kind of got this really optimistic outlook to it. But these samples, like this lead flute thing, that doesn't fly. It sounds like a Casio keyboard kind of a preset or whatever, and that's just not going to fly in this business. It sounds too like a kid kind of sound, right? Like immature kind of a sound. So you want to steer clear of those kind of samples. Drums aren't bad. I mean, I think the drums are okay, but a lot of the other samples were a little bit just template-y, not really that lifelike sounding. So you definitely got to update some of these leads and synths that you're using here, whatever these are. The drums were cool, but yeah, those horns sounded a little too fake. Yeah, so if you're gonna use horns like that, you probably need to add a little bit more reverb to them. They sounded a little dry. You want to like give a little more space around them, and then you really got to make sure you're automating those things. So like, horns are really tricky. I'll be honest with you. I've had quite a few tracks of mine actually rejected from libraries because of the horns I put in there. So you're not alone in this. This is a really, like, horns. There's some libraries that are much better than others, but that's a really hard instrument to fake if you're not actually recording horns. So these days I pretty much stay away from horns unless it's like cinematic horns, but like something high like this, which is kind of like a lead, it's really tricky to do that because they always sound a little they don't really sound real. Your guitars sound awesome though. I really like those. So you definitely got a good sound with those. But yeah, horns and your leads and that kind of thing, I think a lot of these things need to be just swapped out with something that sounds a little bit more realistic or a little bit more modern and kind of lifelike. Good that you have a lot of like differentiation between your parts, all these parts. That's good. Make sure you also are including some transitional elements when you go from part A to part B, so that you don't just have a switch like that. You want to kind of have a rise, maybe a drum fill, something that kind of gives the listener a clue that some new part is going to come in here. Yeah, like those vocals, they could be cool, but they probably need to have a lot more reverb on them. You probably need to keep them more as an atmospheric pad rather than like a lead, because I can definitely tell that they're sort of, they're samples. They're obviously like a fake vocal thing going on there. So I would say your issue mostly to improve right away is just start investing and investigating, maybe updating some of the samples and leads that you're using, because you got a cool sound. It feels good. The guitars are great, but it's just like the synths, all the things that you're putting around that stuff. It's kind of dragging the whole thing down a little bit. So I think just updating those would probably do you a lot of favor, actually. All right, Peter, let's see what you got here. Attention cue, right on. Love it. The only thing that's bothering me so far is these little growls that come in. They seem to be a little bit like late. They end later than they should. And I think they're probably happening too often. I'd probably just save those for the end of a phrase, like the end of 4. Like they kind of end the phrase so that you can go into the next part. So I wouldn't be having them as often as they're having now. Just my 2 cents. Pretty cool. It's like kind of like a hybrid between orchestral and electronic, so I dig it. We need a little bit more low end in the mix overall. I feel like we're missing a lot of the low energy that would help this track really sit comfortably behind a scene. A lot of times with a minimal backstory kind of tension cues like this, a lot of the low frequency instruments and the information needs to be present in the mix, because remember in TV everybody's talking, right? There's always dialogue, there's a voiceover, there's a narrator, there's always some human voice in the foreground. So that frequency is always in the mid to upper range. So if you have a lot of low end information, it sits more comfortably behind that kind of stuff. But this mix is very in the mid range and even in the high range. So that might be an obstacle that you face. So definitely don't be afraid of having a little bit more of your low end, because I think you have a fully produced track here. I think you have all the elements that you need, but just let it breathe a little bit more on the low end. Don't cut out so much of those low frequencies, and I think it'd have a much bigger, rounder mix. And you'll notice right away it puts more energy into your track. Awesome. I probably wanted a little bit more of a rise out of that ending. It didn't feel like it was enough of a build up, and then boom, give us like a nice little, kind of end of it or whatever. So, that's just what I would say on that one. It just needed a little bit more oomph to sort of end that one. But a really great track, man. That's definitely very licensable. You got a great talent there. All right. Ebon Beats. You have no idea how to build a track for TV and movie, but you have this one. All right, let's see what you got here. I'm going to listen. Sorry, my nose is very itchy. I have to go blow it real quick, but I am going to be listening. Okay, I dig it, man. But right there, that's when you need to add something new. So in the TV film world, we can't go back to where we were before. We have to always be moving forward, meaning we have to add a new lead, start adding new percussion, add something to kind of drive the interest forward in the track. Your kick is a little blown out, so you might want to just lower that a little bit. As you can see, a lot of them are clipping at the top here. Yeah, see, no matter where I'm going in your track, I'm kind of hearing the same thing. So that's the one thing, the first thing you're going to learn if you want to learn how to make TV film music is it's got to have new stuff, right? You can't be copying and pasting your way through a track. It has to have something new that adds onto it. Maybe you start adding some strings, maybe add a cool piano line. You got to be the creator of that. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it just needs to always have something new. So when I click on different parts of your track, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's different. Oh, this is interesting. That's what a supervisor is going to do. That's what an editor is going to do. And so you got to give them those options. Yeah, so it sounds like what this track was is you had like this really cool part, and then you kind of just copied and pasted various parts of it all throughout. So a good foundation, this is where you start. Now you got to finish the track, meaning you got to start adding a lot more to this. And then watch out for that kick. It's a little bit blown out, so you might want to turn that down a little bit. All right, here you go. Trap track for review. Johnny Tables. What you got, man? I will say for an intro, it's a little bit minimal. It's not quite grabbing me. The drums are cool, but like this long, slow fade in thing. Let's see where maybe a more appropriate place would be to start your track. Maybe right here where you have this swell. Not really feeling that kind of stuttering synth on the top. It feels a little bit square sounding, just not as modern as it probably could. It kind of has this 80s feel or whatever. So if it's going to be trap, as you say here, if you listen to some modern trap and stuff, listen to the kind of synths, vocals, stutters, horn stabs. They do a lot of horn stabs. Just listen to what's happening in modern stuff, because the more modern, the more current you can make your track sound, the more relevant you're going to be in this industry, because people who are making TV shows, they want to sort of copycat what's going on in pop culture. They're not going to want to use music that was hot 10 years ago or 5 years ago. They want music that's going on right now. And this sound right now wouldn't quite pass that test as far as does it sound like a modern track that's like, you know, a trap track from whoever, you know, topping the charts right now. So I would definitely listen to some more modern trap tracks and try to really just emulate what they're doing in those songs and use those kind of synths and leads that they're using. Typically, if you have a crash cymbal like that, you probably want to have a low kick with it as well, or an 808 drop. You need something that accompanies a crash cymbal. A crash cymbal by itself normally doesn't work in my experience. Maybe if it's like a orchestral riser, like a cymbal roll, that might work in certain places. But just like a hip hop crash like that by itself, it just feels a little like, ugh. Why was that there? There needs to be something on the low end to counterbalance it and give it that punch. It's a really clean sound, actually. You got a great sound here. It's just the samples, the presets you're using with your synths. I'm not really feeling those things. I think they could be improved upon. They can be a little bit more interesting. They just feel very square. They just feel very like buzzsaw, kind of not that inspiring to me. So, but you definitely have a cool thing going on here with this track, and it's very clean. That's one thing I really like about this track. Everything's very clean. There's no mud. I can hear every instrument very clearly. So you've got definitely some great mixing talents here and some sort of spacing talents that you have with your mixes. So you've got a lot going on for yourself. So if you're going to go into a part like this that doesn't have a kick and it's kind of like a build-up, what I would do is, if you're going to use a lead like this, which I think you should still swap it out, but whatever you use, you kind of want to maybe do a rolling EQ fade. So when you go into this sort of subdued area, you want to maybe like take off all the high frequencies of this high lead. Take them off, and then as this part goes on, you automate so that that frequency sort of reveals itself, and then it grows and evolves. It's like an old trick that you can use for a lot of different sort of build-up sections or riser sections or tension sections that need to like sort of start really subdued and then grow. You can do it in your mix bus. Like if you patch all these things together, you can do everything at once, or you can do it one track at a time and have everyone doing its own sort of like evolving, revolving thing. But definitely you want to show that sort of difference from here was our chorus, and now we're in this sort of like bridge section. And the biggest way to know you're in a different place is that, like, you know, it's all bright and it's shining and everything's going great, and then when we go to our subdued chorus or verse section, bridge section, sorry, all of it's subdued. We take a lot of that high frequency away, and now it feels very different. And that's what we're doing when we're creating tracks for this industry, creating dynamics, right? Differences, contrast, right? Black and white. So that's something I would definitely recommend for you in your production moving forward. Matt, all right, you're enjoying the channel. Right on, man. I will say it's a little bit minimal. It's not grabbing my attention quite yet, and so for a music supervisor or an editor, I probably wouldn't grab theirs either. So you have this kind of thing happening in the left speaker, this stuttering. That probably should be moved to the center. It doesn't feel right that it's just like over here by itself, because when it's over there, it feels like the whole track is kind of disjointed and not really cohesive. So I feel like we're missing something like in the mid-range. We've got the low thing, we've got the drums, and we've got this high thing, but there's nothing in the mid-range. So I almost think we need a piano, maybe a guitar. We need something that's kind of in this low to mid range that can fill out the frequency spectrum. It feels like it's a very spread out mix. Like we have high, frequencies and very low frequencies, but in the middle, it feels hollow, like there's something that needs to be there. So it doesn't quite feel like a complete track yet to me. It feels like you're on your way to something that could be really cool, but it still needs more production to it. It needs some more instruments, and it needs something added to it, because right now it's not it's not moving forward as fast, or not as fast as it doesn't have that forward momentum of like what's going to happen next. It's kind of just really dum 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 dum. You know, so it's kind of heavy. And so in order to pick that up a little bit, maybe some more percussion would help that. Maybe adding some more instruments, like I said, and kind of not doing like the sort of really slow dun dun, but actually start doing eighth notes dun 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 dun, or even 16th notes dun 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 dun, you know, something like that. And it can be really subtle. It doesn't have to be really loud, crazy 16th notes, but just something subtle. Especially when you have a slower tempo track like this, it'll help move it forward a little bit more. So I can almost hear this being sort of like a industrial 9 Inch Nails kind of a rock track, if you want to go in that direction with some more dark cinematic elements to it. But as it is right now, it just feels like it's not quite done yet. There you go. This part feels full. So I think it just took a little too long for us to get into some of this beef. So what I would do is take some of the elements that you have going on over here and start introducing them over here, right? So start getting this track a little bit beefed up faster and constantly add something, make it interesting, make it interesting. You have this little breakdown here. Let's see what this was. Probably need to do a little bit better with this transition. You need to like rise us up a little bit. Boom, maybe bring us down. You could keep the drums there as is, but it really needs to be almost like a pause. Typically, if you're going to have a lot of music going on and then you have a little break and then you go to the chorus, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just drop everything out, maybe just have a pad or even just nothing. Boom, bam, bam, and that just makes that sort of next chorus that comes in epic. Really, really cool. Yeah, see, we didn't really get any sort of hint that there was going to be a big change coming. So you might want to have guitars reverse fade in, or whatever you want to do there. But give the listener a clue, hey, we're about to go to a pretty big chorus. I dig this, man. This is really cool. I want to hear something faster with the percussion. I want to hear, and then maybe at some point the tambourine comes in, and maybe even pan those out left and right to keep them nice and stereo. But really cool stuff going on with this part. I just think that first part, it didn't, see, that's the thing. In this industry, if I wanted to use something like this, but I heard this first part, I'd go, it's not the track I want. right? That's the problem, is that you got to hook me real quick so that I go, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's what's happening. And then maybe I'm like, okay, I'm in love with this track. I'm going to use it for my show, right? That's the whole trick with this industry. But really cool, man. All right, Gus. Let's see what you got here, man.
Get crazy, get crazy, get crazy, get crazy, get loose, get loose, get loose, get loose, get crazy, get crazy, get crazy, get crazy, get loose, get loose, get loose, get loose, get crazy, get crazy, get crazy.
Dig it, man. Something needs to happen already, though. We need to start changing some things, add something right there at that 20-second mark. It's too repetitive already. It's like, I like it. Like, I really like what you're doing. And obviously, I'm assuming these vocals are cleared and you could use these. But yeah, we got to start adding something right away. 20 seconds. There should be something else that already happened. Another lead that comes in or something.
Get crazy. Get loose. Get loose. Get loose. Get loose. Get, 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 get,
those kind of bell hits, they're really bothering me. They kind of are atonal. They're very conflicting. I like what you're doing with the stuttering vocals. I like the pattern that you're starting to create here. I would personally go with a different sound. That sound just sounds too off-putting and just like sort of dissonant. I think something a little bit more pleasing to the ears. It can be still as kind of intense and like aggressive or whatever if you want to do that. But yeah, that sound itself, it just really is going, I don't know. It's throwing me off a little bit. Because I don't hear a melody. I hear the low 808 melody you got going on, but this thing is just kind of noisy. It's just not really following the key.
Get crazy, get crazy, get crazy, get crazy, get loose, get loose.
So I would do something like this once in a while, like if you're going to do this sort of repeating the vocals or whatever, but it seems like it's happening throughout the entire track, and that's probably too much for this. Remember, if it's not a vocal track where you actually have a rapper on it, or you actually have like a full, like, we have lyrics, you have a verse and a chorus, you don't want to be stuttering vocals this often, where it's like the entire track through there's some vocals. They should be just sprinkled in. Like, they could be for like maybe a turnaround point or a transition part, or maybe in just one part of the chorus to start the chorus or something like that. But it shouldn't be the entire track through. And also, I think this track needs more. It feels very minimal, like way too minimal. It needs more production. Right now, it's got an idea, it's a kernel of something, but it needs a little bit more. And also, the 3:48 time is probably too long. I try to keep your tracks between 2 and 3 minutes. That's probably all you're going to need. But really cool, because it has this sort of funky, fun party feeling to it, and lots of placements for that. So you're on the right track as far as how you're, or the style at least that you're going with there. So, all right, NDR Studio. Let's see what you got here. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. All right, so I like the chorus and I like the verse. The problem I'm having is they feel like it shouldn't be in the same song. The chorus is like madness, crazy, awesome, and the verse is kind of like inspirational. We're going somewhere fun. It just felt like we really got torn apart and we went into a completely different track. My take on this would be is that you separate this song into two different songs. You make one that's a little bit more intense and wild and like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and that'll be the part that you base the chorus around, right? So you have to create a new verse, a new build-up that's a little bit crazier, a little bit more funky, and just kind of wild and wacky. and then make another track starting with this verse build-up part, and then make a chorus that's much more like celebration, achievement, like you've accomplished something, because I feel two different emotional poles with this track. And that's something you're going to learn about this industry, about TV film licensing, is typically you can have a lot of different variation with a song, but it has to be all in the same theme emotionally. I've had this issue with some of my members where they'll send me a track and I'm like, I love a lot of parts of this track, but you've given me almost too many options, right? Because this chorus sounds like this and this verse sounds like that, and it's just too all over the place, and you don't want to be confusing a music supervisor or an editor going like, I don't know where to put this, because it's kind of like in two different worlds. You want to keep your track in one emotional world, whatever it's going to be, inspirational, uplifting, or wacky, crazy, wild, fun, kind of cool stuff. So I would definitely split this up into two different tracks. A little bit too much noise happening, this low whatever that thing is happening. It's really intense, it's really loud, and it's taking away from the musical appeal of this track. So I'd back off that a little bit. It feels like there's just too much going on in this chorus. Yeah, there's a lot of noise happening. It's almost, it sounds like somebody set off the alarm in a store, and it's like there's a fire alarm, there's a shoplifting alarm, there's like 8 different alarms, and they're all, it's like, okay, let's start with one of those, right? Let's just do one of those alarm sounds, whatever you're doing in the background there, and then everything else in the hook should probably be musical, okay? Not so much like a sound or an alarm sort of feel, but actually have tones and chords and progressions and that kind of thing, because you start adding too many of those things into your track, and it gets noisy, and it's just hard to listen to because it's just so aggressive. So definitely take a foot off the gas pedal a little bit with those reviews, or those alarm sounds. Right on. All right, John, you got this one called Hey, and I'm gonna play this while I go fill up my water. Here we go.
Hey!
Caught me dancing. Went to my kitchen actually to get it. So really cool, man. Upbeat, fun. The Hey, I think that needs to be replaced. It just doesn't feel like it matches. I think you need to maybe do record, if this is you recording this Hey, record yourself like 10 times or 20 times and stack them all up and get this really big kind of crowd like, hey, and put some reverb on it and make it really big. So right now, just a single voice just doesn't seem to match how big this track is. Cool turnaround there. Hey! Those vocal synth stabs you have going on there. They feel like they're out of time and they don't really belong here. Like, I love the music going on, but when those things come in, they feel like they're not there. Maybe try something else for that. So I like what you're doing here, and you're kind of really amping us up. What I would recommend is kind of doing what I said before for the other track I was talking about, was have like a revealing high frequency happening with your EQ for this last lead synth you have here. Bum, bum, that one, dun, dun. So you started off maybe more subdued. Dun, 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 and then you let it come open as you get closer to the end here. So that'll give this sort of like unfolding, revealing, evolving feeling to the end of your track. and then give us that bum, you know, right at the very end. Give me that root chord at the end of your song with a kick and a crash, and then yeah, with that hey, stack them up. They need to be a lot bigger than that. That hey just does not work with this kind of a sound. That hey needs to be sound like a group of people doing it. So either get a sample, check out splice.com. They have lots of vocal samples like that are cleared. You can use them, or record it yourself if you want to do that. So really cool though, man. Really got me going over there. That was awesome. All right, Daniel Hauser, you got a link here? All right, let's see what you got. First thing, got to tune those guitars. There's a lot of tuning issues happening between your two guitars right now. And I'm going to listen to more, but I'm going to tell you, a music supervisor, a library, not going to listen to more. They're going to hear that couple of seconds, hear the tuning issues, and go, nope, not even going to give you another chance like that. So I'm going to listen more. I'm going to give you some more notes if I can, but that's the first thing. Before you guys record, get a tuner next to you. Tune all those things up, right? Make sure this stuff is super locked in. And in between each take, if you're doing multiple takes, I would keep that tuner right there. They have these tuners now where you can literally, they're battery powered, and they have a clip on them. You can literally clip them to your guitar. I think I don't have it with me right now. It's in one of my cases, but literally when I'm using it and I'm gonna be recording, I'll literally keep that right plucked onto my guitar, and as I strum any string, it'll say, okay, you're in tune or you're not in tune. Keep that thing real close, because there are tuning issues in this that will definitely prevent you and whoever you recorded this with, if it was just you, from getting some acceptances.
Have a good time. I'm tired of this arguing. Won't you come and hold my hand? Won't you switch on over so we can be a little bit closer, my love?
So I don't know if you threw some drums in here at any point, but I definitely want to hear this as like a full-blown piece. Like just having just the guitars, especially with how intense they are. This feels like it should be a rock track, right? But I don't hear the drums yet, so maybe they come in later. Maybe they don't. Let's see. Yeah. So the timing is probably too long for this industry. It would probably keep it between 2 and 3 minutes. Vocals were cool, maybe a little bit of pitchy here and there. You might want to look a little bit into working with some autotune on those. But definitely I would like fully produce your tracks, right? Get them with a drummer and a bassist, maybe a keyboardist or whatever. Get a fully produced track, because something like this would be a great like alt mix that you could submit alongside the fully produced track. But if you're only going to be offering guitars and vocals, you're probably going to be limiting the number of uses and libraries that really want to release this stuff from you. So look into, if you don't have a drummer and a bassist, maybe think about getting one, or become your own. Start programming drums. Like maybe you guys record, or you record your guitars and the vocals. Make sure it's not to a click though, right? You got to get to a metronome, and then after the fact, you can come in and program some drums around it or something like that. And they have some great sounding awesome drums. Check out Steven Slate drums. It's a library that comes with, or you can get with Contact 5. I use those drums all the time in my rock and pop tracks that need that kind of stuff. So definitely check those out. It can definitely be done, but I think this is sort of like, this is a demo. Let's fully produce it now, right? I would say definitely work on doing that. All right, Rennie, let's see what you got. You wrote me an email before from information advice and you never wrote me back. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I get dozens and dozens of emails every single day, so I don't know what your email was, or if it was a long one or a short one. So I'm sorry. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. Hope you guys can understand that I don't always just sit here in front of my computer responding to emails. Like, as maybe you guys don't know, I do run the syndicate, obviously, and I run my website and all that kind of stuff. But most of my time actually is in producing music still. Like, this is what I still do full time. So I have clients, I have relationships, and every week or so, I'm getting new opportunities and new requests for production, to produce music for new TV shows and all that kind of stuff. So I apologize if I skipped over a comment, skipped over an email. Please be patient with me. I'm doing my best to try to, I'm a one-man band here, guys. I have no assistants, nobody answering anything other than me. So I'm the only one. So if I missed your guys' thing, my apologies. So let's take a listen to your music, though. Love everything so far. The strings maybe need a little bit more attention to detail as far as like automating them, because I feel sometimes they get really loud and then they're quiet. So it might be a little bit much for this kind of a track. Maybe they should be more in the background, kind of almost like atmospheric. You can put a lot of reverb behind them so they're not so prevalent. Because right now when they get loud, it's just like, whoa, like it kind of like takes me back a little bit. But everything else is cool. I like the piano, I like the drums, everything else is grooving. Now, that's one of those things where we were kind of going somewhere and then we stopped and now we're back with the strings. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. Let's listen to that. Then the strings come in. If that's the downbeat where that crash cymbal is, I like that groove you had going on, which is just like the guitar doing this kind of bam, bam, whatever it was doing. I didn't want to hear those strings. Those strings were there before, and I kind of feel like this is our little departure away from the string. So when you have these like transitions where it's like a natural break and you had that crash cymbal, obviously, that's where you should like have new patterns, new instruments, or you take something away or you add something more. But right now, like you took it away and then you brought it right back, and it's like, oh wait, no, so we're not going somewhere new. We're kind of right back where we were. That gives the listener the feeling that we've gone back in time and we're not progressing forward. Okay, so here's one suggestion I have, and you can say this is a bad idea or it's a great idea. I would not go for where you were putting the horns in there. That gave it a real kind of 80s corporate sound. That sound really doesn't fly so much these days. But because this has such a big uplifting sort of feel to it, I would go more in the direction of like Imagine Dragons with this kind of a song. So go listen to the kind of synths and really cool growls that they put in their tracks. They have some awesome claps, snaps, big kick drums. You know, that big drum that he hits on stage, boom, boom. He has stuff like that. I would make this more intense, more like high energy. I would get away from the sort of chill, cool, jazzy stuff that you have going on and keep it more edgy, you know, get it a little bit darker, rough it up a little bit more. Because I definitely hear this as it could be a corporate thing, but also could be an advertising cue. And if you get a little bit closer to that sort of modern Imagine Dragons pop sound, you're going to find yourself in a lot of placements, a lot of great opportunities, and libraries will be falling all over themselves for you. But the kind of cool, chill jazz thing, it's a dated sound, and it's just not that hot right now in the business. And the timing I'm seeing there, it's a 6-minute long cue. It's it's definitely at least twice as long as it needs to be for this business. So 2 to 3 minutes is where you need to keep it. That's where, you know, a 6-minute long track, they're not going to have any use for that kind of a thing. It's way too long. So definitely just cut it down and get it to the bare bones. You know, give us a verse, chorus, second verse, second chorus, bridge, chorus. That's pretty much all you need, you know. All right, Nelson. This is a great thing. You're welcome. Love your input on the song. Here we go. Let's see what you got here. Okay, so samples are awesome, energy is awesome, composition is great. I think melodically we probably need to do more than we're doing here because it's just bam, bam. It's all on the same note. It's all kind of just staying right there. So maybe you get a little bit. It's not that you have to do anything different with your rhythms, but just like the notes that you're using, you probably want to just move somewhere a little bit more. It doesn't need to be far, but just, you know, go up half a step, go up a whole step. Try a couple of things out melodically to make this thing move a little bit, because when it's doing the same thing, even though you're using the right samples, you got the right energy, it's up tempo, I still feel like we're on a treadmill because we're not going anywhere musically. Sometimes that is the right choice to do. It's just to keep things right in the right lane and all that kind of stuff. And in fact, what you could do is maybe keep all these low, bam, keep those all in the same one, but the faster strings you're using, maybe those can start having a different kind of a pattern that they rise up, they kind of do different things, and that provides a really cool contrast between the stability of the low, bam, and then the sort of playfulness of the upper ones. But just something to think about. So I definitely hear some timing issues. You got to be careful when you use these really fast strings, whatever library you're using, because sometimes they can be earlier, sometimes they can be behind, and you might have to actually go in and manually delay or early, nudge, basically back or forth, whatever you want to do with your strings, because they don't seem like they're lining up at this, especially this section with your drums. Yeah, they seem late. They seem like they're behind your the cool percussion you got going on. So get those things tight. They got to be super tight. And sometimes it's not as simple as, even though it might look quantized in your session, the samples that you're using, they might in the library take a second to kind of engage. And that's why even though it's quantized in your session, it's still going, it's kind of like a little behind the beat. That's why you got to take, or that's when you need to take all of those MIDI samples and nudge them forward just a little bit so that you're anticipating that little bit of a delay. Beautiful. Love that ending, man. That was a great, awesome, dynamic ending. So a lot of promise for you, man. This is definitely obviously in the trailer world, cinematic world, orchestral world and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of promise for you there. Other things you might want to consider is doing also minimal cues. They don't have this much going on, but they're still very intense and they have a lot of tension, because that's where reality shows will use you all over the place. So a lot of potential for you here. Awesome stuff, Nelson. All right, Dennis, let's see what you got. This is a track called Happy, okay? Let's see what you got. So already this is probably more like the indie world, like kind of like an indie film or something like that, because it's very dreamy. It's kind of a little psychedelic. It's got some cool delays and that kind of thing happening, but it's subdued. It's kind of slow. It doesn't have a lot of high energy. So right off the bat, even though it's cool, just not a lot of uses for this kind of music in the industry. This would kind of remind me more of something that you would do if you had been hired to do like custom music for a film or something like that, and they said, hey, put some sort of minimal guitar music behind this scene. That would be probably more what this would be for. So. Yeah, so it's a cool thing. I like it, man. But you got to have everything happening in this track, right? We need drums, we need bass, we need piano, we need like a full production. Having just one instrument like this, unless a library that you're working with requests this kind of thing, it's not a very common thing that's asked of. So I would say definitely focus on, when you have a cool idea like this, make it into a fully fledged track, and add all the elements you need to make this a full song. Because with just a guitar track, even though you have a lot going on, it's just a guitar track, and there's only that would be a great like alt mix to supply to them. Say, hey, this is the version of my song with just the guitars. There you go. You can give them that. But you should also have a mix of, this is a slamming mix. This has everything with it, has the whole band. So definitely get in the habit of fully producing your tracks out. Brandon, all right, let's see what you got here, man. Your drums in 808 is massive, man. Just awesome. Those strings that you're using as the lead, I'm not feeling those things. I think those could be swapped out for something stronger. They feel very like kiddish. They just don't feel as serious and mature as your drums and 808 do. So they feel like they're not supposed to be in this track. They were kind of accidentally put in or whatever. So I would swap those out. But man, this has got a really cool feel. Same thing with those bells. They just feel like a little kid kind of sound. They don't feel as mature as the rest of the track. You might want to turn down your 808s a little bit. They are a little clippy, and they're kind of swallowing up the mix a little bit, but just a little bit. I like how it's really warm and rich down there. Yeah, if you have access to like a female vocalist, I would probably think a female vocalist on this would be the best way to go forward, and just make it a really pretty song. Again, it is slow. It is kind of like mellow, so you might want to think about that, not getting too focused on this kind of style. You want to go a little bit more up-tempo and fun, sort of themed for this industry. But the leads you have right now is just kind of taken away from the overall quality of the track. So I would rethink those leads, swap out new instruments, try something else. Or if you do have access to a vocalist, I can definitely hear a female vocalist doing some really awesome stuff on this track, man, because you got a really cool sound there for sure. All right, Ramon, let's see. You can take it, no worries. All right, man. And by the way, you guys, I mean, obviously I say this a lot, but I'm not trying to beat you guys up. I'm not trying to be mean. And I know that if you guys are following me, you're at least interested enough in what it's going to take to succeed. Maybe you're not going to go down the path of trying to do this full time, but I want to at least give you my honest, straight up, like no BS opinion, right? I am a professional. I do this full time, so I know what's worked, what's not worked for me. I've worked with a lot of producers who are very talented, and so I know some of the tips and tricks that really get you far in this business. So that's all I'm providing here, guys. If you find this valuable, cool. If you think that my feedback on your stuff is worthless, cool. It doesn't really matter to me. I just want to sort of give back to you guys and let you guys know this is essentially what it takes to do well. You got to sort of take criticism, whether or not you take it from me, whatever. But somebody in this business, I don't care who you are, they're going to have criticism for you. If you get a gig, they're going to go, okay, we're going to give you 10 grand. We want you to write this cue. You send them your first draft. They go, cool, but we don't like this and this. That's constructive feedback, right? So you got to be able to handle this kind of stuff in this industry. So this is sort of like, if this is your first time getting into this business, this is what it's like. You might get some real direct feedback saying like, take this out. We don't like this. That doesn't work. This doesn't work. You can't take that stuff personally. You just got to go, okay, that part of my song doesn't work. Let me fix that. They didn't say that I was worthless or that I was terrible, that I didn't have any talent. They're saying, let's fix this little creation that I've made. And I'm not going to take that personally. I'm just going to take this feedback and go do it. You got to have that attitude if you want to improve. So first off, your mix is very quiet. It can get a lot louder, at least 6 dB louder. So with this buildup, I like that it was intense and you kept us going on the roller coaster. However, there were some slams you had before the rise was over, so that felt like a little misleading. Also, it was very noisy. Like I kind of lost track of the musical direction. It was just like noise risers, just like a really noisy buildup. So maybe not focus so much on adding all the noise elements to it, but actually kind of create it and make it more musical. You can still have a riser that kind of feels like that, sort of like, you know, your skin crawling and it's going up, which is great, but it needs to have more musical direction to it, because right, that one just felt like it was like too much, just way too much noise happening. And then obviously don't have any big impacts that happened before that downbeat, which is right here, which was a cool turnaround. But the dynamics were awesome. I like that you built us up, boom, put it down, and then slam, we're back into this part, this grooving part. Your drums are a little too loud, so I would say like bring those down a little bit and pump up that low end. That I got to feel a little bit more of that. The low horns are awesome. The high horns, I think those are horns you have on the high playing the lead. They need a little bit of work. They feel too fake. They need to be a little bit more lifelike. So either swap those out or maybe try strings, maybe a more lifelike string sample or library that you can use. They just don't seem to be, they kind of like take away from like how serious this track could be, because this has got some epic, huge energy, but you got to match that with your samples that you're using. Other than the percussion being a little loud at this part, I dig this. This is really cool, man. Again, really cool ending right there. Most libraries, though, they're not going to have a need for this long outro right here. And in fact, if you just cut that down, you probably get your track closer to that 3-minute mark. So really great stuff here, man. Just a little bit of mixing adjustments and probably swap out some of those horn samples or whatever's going on there. That seemed to be the biggest thing that kind of bothered me a little bit. But great sound, great ear for production. Andrew, okay, here's a track on your personal. You like the new title of the site, but Music Makes Cash is the one that caught my attention and brought me to the first place, even though you're growing. Cool. Old title, yeah, it's just Music Makes Cash. It just had that word cash in it, and it felt a little like cash for gold, or like, you know, make a bunch of cash. It just had this sort of weird vibe to it. So I was like, you know what? Let's just get right to it. Sync my music. We're talking about music syncs. We're talking about music. let's just get right to the point. And Music Makes Cash was also a little bit vague. So, but I'm glad, hey, either way you found me. So that's great. So I feel like your drums need a lot more, not the hi-hats, but the kick and the snare. They feel like they're in a closet. They're really, really subdued. I need to hear a lot more high frequency from them. Also, I kind of want the drums to kick in a lot sooner than they did, because this long intro of just instruments, I'm not getting into the groove yet. I mean, it's kind of setting me up for a groove, but it's still at, let's see, 25. Like if you have a bass coming in like that, typically you're going to want to have your drums coming in as well, because the bass and the drums are almost like one instrument, right? Because they are the rhythm section of a song. So I would have kicked the drums in a little bit earlier, but I need to hear them more, because even when they do kick in, they're very subdued. Like those drums need to be boom, right? You need to like really let those things come out and come through the mix. Right now they're hidden in the background, so drums need to be kind of front and center for this. Also, I think the samples here aren't doing what they could be doing. I think having some more updated samples, trying some other sounds is probably the way to go. Some of these sound like they're very template, presets that kind of came out of some sampler or whatever like that. So I think going and investing in maybe getting some presets online with whatever sampler you're using, or just trying to get a new synthesizer, just trying some other things out, because these ones sound very like basic. They're just kind of like the basic sounds that come with a particular sampler or whatever, or synthesizer. So I think a sample issue is definitely where you're at here. Okay, Felton, let's see. Right on. You're welcome, man. I'm glad that you're seeing that this is valuable, so that's great. Track needs to be a lot louder, man. It's very quiet. It's very timid. So don't be afraid of cranking up your master bus, doing some ad limiting, maybe even cranking up your tracks a little bit, because all of this stuff I'm like having to turn up my speakers just to hear it as loud as I've been hearing other members. I think your chord progression probably could be a little bit stronger. So this dun 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 dun, it's just kind of not very inspirational or interesting, because it's just the quarter notes dun 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 dun. So maybe think about having more interesting rhythms with it. So dun 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 dun. Just get a little more creative with how you're putting your rhythms together, because I think when it's just very on the grid, dun dun dun, it just kind of gives us this very square marching feel, and it doesn't make us feel the groove as much as we possibly could. So the samples aren't bad. Maybe some of them could be updated. It's not that your samples are bad, but the samples and drums and everything you're using, everybody uses those things, okay? So if you want to stand apart in this business, you probably don't want to use the same kind of sample packs, drum packs, synths, all that kind of stuff that everybody's using, okay? So definitely check out splice.com. Go see if you can kind of get some really interesting, awesome, cool percussion, drums, kicks, all that kind of stuff. They have synth presets as well, but more for the drums, that kind of a thing. But definitely start to expand the kinds of sounds that you're working with, because you definitely want to stand out from the crowd. You don't want to be making similar sounds, similar percussion tracks that everybody else is using. So and then definitely thinking about sort of switching up that rhythm of your chord progression for sure. All right, Dan. Can you give me the names for free music libraries? I don't know what you mean by free. Royalty free? I have a whole directory. You can definitely check that out underneath. You did research to Google, but he came a few sites from the UK. Reverb Nation sends opportunities, but you have to have a basic plan to submit for $9.99 a month. I want to test my tracks before jumping to a paid platform. Yeah, no, that's a good idea, man. I mean, if you the thing with me is that like for the paid opportunities or the paid what do they call sort of like you pay them the monthly fees and they give you the licensing opportunities. Some of them can do great things for you guys. Like you can get some awesome opportunities through those. I'm not gonna say you can't, but if that's all you're working with, you're not going to probably have as many, you're not going to get any personal relationships built up that way. Because basically what they're going to do is they're going to take your music and send it to their contacts. And you never actually meet those contacts, okay? The difference between a situation like that, where you're paying them for just opportunities where they send it out, and what I have with the syndicate is that I'm like guiding you guys through this industry. So I'll give you feedback. If you don't get on one of my opportunities, I'll tell you why you didn't get on. I'll say, this is why your track wasn't strong enough. This is what you need to improve for next time. This is not what's not working. Not to mention, I talked to you guys about like the homework assignments. I'm going to guide you guys through week by week. We're going to work on one specific thing to kind of improve your production. I kind of give you guys a behind the scenes look at how the industry works, how the business works, what's going on in my career, what are some of the current trends that are happening in the business, what kind of music's really hot, really high in demand. So that's kind of what we're doing there. And also you guys get to interact with each other and we sort of motivate each other, inspire each other, encourage each other. So you're not getting any of that from Reverb Nation or any of these other companies that provide that, because all they're going to do is give you a sort of licensing. Here you go. We need a track like this. Go ahead and send it to us. And then like 1,000 of their members send their tracks. But that's really all you're going to get. You're probably not going to get feedback. It's either going to be oh, thanks, but your track wasn't quite what we were looking for. And that's it, right? And then every month you just keep doing this thing. So it's just not like a strong first option I would take in this business. Developing your own personal relationship with libraries is the only way to go. I can guide you, I can help you, I can sort of get your tracks closer to the right place to be able to get licensed, but you have to build up those relationships for yourself. You can't let anybody else or think that anybody else will do that for you. So let's take a listen here, man. All right, I would have started your track with this part. This is so engaging. This is so awesome. I love this. This feels a little bit minimal and kind of like aimless. Like I don't really know where we're going with it. It sounds cool, but it's not until you did this with your guitar that I was like, ooh, this is awesome. And I would build the whole track up around this riff right here. And then we lost the guitar. That guitar is probably the strongest part of your track. I would not be losing it. And I wouldn't be just putting it right here. I would build up a whole track around this guitar. This is advertising friendly. This is corporate friendly. This is even reality show friendly. This is all over the place. So this sound is great. This kind of Americana, fast plucking guitar, acoustic guitar. Wonderful, man. Really good. And you got a great sound. I don't know if you actually did that or if that's a MIDI instrument, but that sounds great. Yeah, and you kind of go into the sort of trancey bass thing going on. I would stay away from that for this. I would kind of stay with your sort of corporate, really cool, uplifting guitar section right here and build this track around that. That's what I would do. Yeah, I think that's just a little too far out there because you're going to this like kind of trancey distortion, and then you also have this. I've heard thousands of commercials that have this exact kind of sound. So, and I think that's the strongest thing you have going on in this track. So I would definitely stick with that and build tracks around that style. That's a really good angle to get into. All right, Marvelous Beats, as a violist and a composer, is helping you make a transition into music libraries. All right, so this is the track you want me to check out. Let's see what it is. it's taking a while to get into the track. So if there were vocalists on here, I'm sure, or a rapper or a singer, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem. But musically, we're not anywhere yet. We're still kind of like, where are we going, right? And it's 22 seconds in. So right now, this intro is too long. Let's see where a better place would have been to start it. Probably just right around here. That's where I would have started it. Just get me right into the beat. We don't need to have these long intros like that in this industry. It's a cool beat. I dig it. It feels a little bit stripped down though. It feels like a beat that should have a rapper on it or a vocalist. So if you want to do that, do that. But if you're not going to do that, you got to add more musical elements to this because it's way too stripped down. It's way too plain right now. It needs more elements. It needs more instruments, more percussion. It needs some cool stuff happening to keep the interest going because right now it just feels like a beat underneath something, and that's not going to quite cut it for a TV library. You got this really cool like hybrid thing happening where it's almost like Americana with like hip hop trap, which I have actually never heard before. You might be stumbling into a really profitable, awesome thing here. If you can really hype up a little bit more of that Americana, you have this like violin thing happening. You could really hype up a little bit more of that sort of like Americana Western thing on top of this sound. You know, there might not be a ton of places to put that kind of music, but wow, what a unique sound that would be. So, I mean, I don't know if I would say go for it because now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what kind of a show would have Americana and hip hop together? It's kind of as far apart of genres as you could possibly get. I don't know, man, but you got a really cool, unique sound here. So there's definitely, like, listening to your track, like, I don't hear this sound at all in the hip-hop world, which is very good for all you hip-hop producers watching this still. Hip-hop is a dime a dozen. Everybody makes hip-hop. Everybody makes beats. You got to do stuff like this to stand apart. So whatever you do with this, I like that you're thinking outside of the box. You're using this cool violin thing here. You got to think differently from what every other producer is doing and make your own sound. Try to incorporate something that not any other producer is doing. Otherwise, you will just sound like any other hip-hop guy in the world. And trust me, there's no shortage of people making hip-hop tracks. Every library's got them. For you to stand out and go like, hey, I want to add something unique, throw some rock guitars in your stuff. Throw some violins like this. Throw some strings in there. Throw some dubstep weird stuff. I don't know. Get something really cool and interesting happening in your tracks. That will make you stand out and make people remember you. So, really cool, man. I like that. All right, Abraham. Working on your styles. Think of this ballad. Ballads, that's what we've been talking about a lot, but let's see.
She's so fine, always on my mind. I'm so bright, brighter than the sunlight.
You know, you have this voice that kind of reminds me of Filter. If you know that band Filter from late 90s, early 2000s. They're still around today. But you kind of have that sort of same thing, which is cool because they had that song called Take a Picture, which could be sort of closer to this style or whatever, which is very licensable. It's a licensable sound. Couple of things. One is your mix is very compressed, and it also is missing a lot of the low frequencies, so it feels like it's all up here and it's really small. So we need to like kind of ease up on that compression and let some of those low frequencies come through. Vocals, again, cool quality, but like there's some pitchiness with your vocals. So again, getting used to or either training more, making sure you're staying on pitch, or just start using that auto tune a little bit more if you're not using it. turning up the settings a little bit here and there just to make sure that you get your tracks or your vocals right in line with the key of your song. You have any sort of like fluctuations with those pitch variances, and a library is going to say no thanks. I would also probably get your vocals to start a little sooner if you were going to submit this to a library. You probably don't need to have a long musical intro. You can probably just get started right into your verse, so maybe restructure this so you get right into that. But yeah, I mean, I like I said, if you were to fix the mixing situation, fix the vocals with the pitch issues like that, and then add some more of that low end. Yeah, there's definitely a place for this kind of music. Again, the slow ballads, not a lot for that kind of a thing. So you probably want to stick to more upbeat, feel good music. So there could be something for you there, but you definitely have to think about serving this side of the industry and not necessarily just doing what you want to do. Which, if you just want to do ballads, hey, just keep doing ballads, keep sending them to your people that you want to release it to send it to the world, whatever, online. But if you want to serve this industry, you got to go, hey, what do you guys need? And then make music that they need, and boom, it's like that magical that you'll actually start getting some income that way. So, all right, guys, I was trying to get to the very top of this today, and I just can't do it. My voice, I'm feeling it. It's going away. And I have other videos I got to do today. I have to go do some stuff with the syndicate, so I'm not going to be able to finish up this road today. So we will pick up with Kyung Hom next time, probably in a couple days from now. When I can get a couple of hours again, I'll do this again. So this is still a lot of fun. So I hope you guys are enjoying this feedback. Again, this is the kind of stuff that we do in the syndicate every single week. This is the kind of feedback that you're getting as a part of that program. Not to mention you're getting the weekly homework assignments. So you're going to be working on tiny specific skills 1 week at a time, so that by the end of 6 months, a year, you're a completely new producer. You have a whole new perspective on how the industry works, and you're going to be getting feedback and interaction with me on a weekly basis, so that you're getting closer and closer to making this your full-time income. If this is the first time you've ever gotten professional feedback, I hope that this helped you at least put yourself on a better path. Whether or not you join the syndicate or not, it doesn't really matter. I just want you to make sure that you're heading towards this being your full-time income. I can remember the first time that I got some professional feedback from real producers in this business. It was like a light bulb went off, and I was like, thank you. Finally, somebody gave me real feedback that actually helps, and didn't just say, oh yeah, your music's cool. That didn't help me, even though like even my manager or friends around would say like, oh, you got dope music, but they didn't like tell me what I needed to hear, which is like, yeah, your mixes aren't loud enough, your drums aren't hitting loud enough, the samples you're using don't sound that good. I needed to hear that stuff to make the improvement. So I hope you're taking this knowledge and this feedback that I'm giving you, and you're going to make use of it. And you're going to be motivated and inspired by it. That's where all of this is coming from, and that's why I put this this live video together. So, all right, time for another cup of coffee. Probably spray some more of this throat spray to chill out, drink some honey. I don't know, but thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, hang tight. Again, the reviews are closed. Don't send me any new reviews. I'm not accepting anything. The cutoff was on Monday morning when I did the first one, so